If everything is a special edition, is anything really a special edition? Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I want to talk about a New York Times article that I read shortly after I went to a Barnes & Noble that's in my neighborhood for the first time after it opened, and realized that almost every single book that I was looking at had sprayed edges and special edition covers and things. Not even just like Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, like it just, every book looked like a special edition book. Now, this is me being in the primarily science fiction, fantasy, and YA categories of the store. But yeah, I noticed this and I was like, when did this happen? And I was there with my partner and we were talking about this, and then like the next day, this was the end of December 2024, he sent me this article that the New York Times wrote about these like special editions. I also want to note, I'm not actually talking about like special editions for the most part. I'm just talking about how they're almost making like every book a special edition book. So what's funny is after I thought about this, a friend and mutual, Emma of Emma Skies, I will link her video down below. She just came out with a video talking about special edition books, the different editions from different stores, the cosmetic versus content, all of that. That video is great. I agree with basically everything she said in that video, and I will link that down below. But I'm not necessarily talking about all of the like Walmart and Barnes & Noble and Target special editions, but just that like the books that are just coming out kind of normally are also special edition-y. So this article starts out with talking about, I feel like everyone's nemesis, Entangled and Red Tower, and like using Onyx Storm as an example of like these books that are published with like lots of special editions and things like that, but that even like the base editions have to be special edition-y. In the article it says that Entangled has started giving all of its books the special edition treatment, and there's a quote in here that I think really was what made me make this video because it like kind of set me off. This person that they were interviewing from Entangled said, "Now, to not spray paint the edges would send the wrong kind of signal that a book is not worth collecting." But if everything is sprayed edges, then what differentiates it being special with sprayed edges if they're all gonna have sprayed edges? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against special edition, sprayed edges, beautiful cosmetic things as a rule. I actually late last year, finally got through and have a Fairy Loot subscription that I may end though when talking about all of these things. But I have a Fairy Loot subscription that I've had for like maybe 6 months because I do think some of these editions are beautiful. I do like a sprayed edge or like pretty end papers or a deluxe cover, or what I really love is like a foiled hardcover, right? But even those are becoming so common that it's like I don't even need a Fairy Loot edition of this. So I remember when Owl Crate first came out, and Owl Crate to me was the first like special edition book box, right? And at the beginning it was just like a slightly different cover, like different color maybe. And then they started doing like very different covers, and then they got to the point where they were doing all like sprayed edges and stuff too. I think as of like last year, it was like every special edition was gonna have a sprayed edge. And so to not have a sprayed edge is like, what are you even doing? But they started in 2015. And for a very long time, like it was them and Illumicrate and Fay Crate and Fairy Loot who were like the ones that had actual special editions, because you couldn't just go into a bookstore and get a book with sprayed edges, and now you can, which like I'm not against because it sort of removes the exclusivity, but I am in this like, what are you going to do next, and how are you going to just be continually raising the prices of books if all of them have all of these special edition perks to them? They go on to say that publishers have realized that bringing out special editions can like increase the lifespan of a bestseller. So that also goes into like, who is getting this like special edition, not special edition because they're all having it, a like treatment, right? Books that already are super successful. So they have started to do a thing where they come out with the hardcover first, because at least in the United States, this is what happens. Hardcover first, then paperback release like a year later. Now they're doing hardcover, paperback release, and then deluxe hardcover a few years later. And each one can make their book be on the bestseller list, like the New York Times bestseller list, because it's like a different like printing of it or whatever, right? It's maddening. They even say in this article, this is the second thing that burned me up, publishers have started spraying the edges of some paperback editions, giving fans a reason to buy the paperback even if they already have the hardcover. Now again, if someone chooses to spend their money that way, that's on them. Totally, like, you do you. What I don't like is the predatory capitalism of all of this. It's so gross. And again, they're primarily doing it with already best-selling books or best-selling authors, right? Like that gets the sprayed edge, the whatever. And yeah, and like they give an example of Beach Read in here that has sold like 2.3 million copies, and publishers are planning to release more books with these like decorated edges things, with these like special editions that aren't, because they're not really special edition. It's like the base entry to the book when they're releasing it. So they're doing this like bring it back deluxe edition for bestsellers, but then they're also just like deciding which books get the special edition treatment, which you know which books it's going to be. The same like 10 people that they push all the time, right? And this actually has like strained printer capacity, again, according to this article, and is like pushing up like the margins and stuff and making books more expensive when they're already fairly expensive, especially like a hardcover. So all those design elements can cost 30% more than just like your basic book. They give an example of The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. It's $16 when it came out in paperback, and the deluxe hardcover that's coming out in June of this year is gonna be $35. And they even note that in consumer surveys, like most readers aren't interested in some of these like specialty perks. So you're not like converting new readers with these like different editions. You're just kind of appealing to the already hooked. Like they basically say like you're appealing to the already converted, which just feels icky to me. Like it's just like buy like it's the targeting, right? Like again, if someone chooses to do this, that's fine. That's your money. But I don't like the targeting of like, let's try to get people to buy this thing that they like don't need, buy so many different copies, but come out with so many different editions. Like it's predatory and it's gross. Yeah, I'm wondering what this means like long term for books and releases and things. Like again, if everything has a sprayed edge, then it's like nothing has a sprayed edge. Like it's none of it's special anymore, really. And again, I don't want it to be like necessarily exclusive, but it's also like very exhausting. Like this is why I'm probably going to unsubscribe from Fairy Loot, is one, like I'm not necessarily finding the books and stuff to be like that interesting necessarily that they're coming out with and things. So this is one of the reasons that I might just leave my Fairy Loot subscription, because it's money that I don't need to be spending anyway. I'm not like a huge lover of some of these special editions. I had a little bit of FOMO. But there's so many, like in addition to the monthly, like what they just come out with and you get in the book boxes. One, Fairy Loot specifically has multiple book boxes. So it's like, there's a YA book box, there's a adult book box, there's an adult romantasy book box. They're gonna come out with like a seasonal epic fantasy book box, which I might switch to because then it's just seasonal. And maybe then I'll get like books, like what I kind of want is my favorites, right? Like I want the special editions of like my most favorite books and not a special edition of every single book that comes out. But anyway, in addition to what they send out monthly, automatically, I get like, it feels like multiple emails a week. Maybe it's just one a week generally, but it's multiple emails a month on, now you also have access to this special edition thing that's not being sent out in the book box that we're also releasing. And I'm just like, this is insane. Like it's all the time. And there's so many different book boxes now. And it just feels like, how long are these book boxes really going to last when like the bubble on this kind of bursts? Because like special edition books, when there's like a recession, right? When the economy's not doing well, people aren't going to be able to put their money into things like that. But also, if the publishers are just releasing what basically looks like a special edition for the base book all the time anyway, why would you need to go through any kind of like small business for that? Any kind of like separate company for that? And honestly, the whole special edition thing, when, and like all of these designs and elements and stuff, I think was more of a thing that was cool, at least to me, in like 2015, 2016 when Owl Crate and some of those first came out, because covers used to be uglier. Like these days, I don't tend to see a book cover that I'm just like, ugh, buy, generally. Like even the ones that are very repetitive and things, like some of the romantasy covers all look the same, they're still like beautifully the same, right? I don't think you guys understand the trenches that I came from, where some covers were god-awful ugly, like truly disgusting. So it was like, oh, okay, a special edition that's beautiful now, please give that to me. So yeah, like now I feel like you don't even need these like special design perks because they've stepped their game up design-wise in general. I don't have a point to this necessarily besides my own opinion of like, this feels so late-stage capitalism. It's just, but like again, if you spend your money this way, this is not a judgment on you. It's just like, does this need to be happening? Like all of these special editions, all this printing. Oh, I didn't even mention that a lot of this printing is happening in like China and India, so they're outsourcing some of this printing, like just to kind of keep up. And it feels like people have talked about this with books a lot, and with Red Tower and Entangled specifically, like the fast fashionification of books. It kind of feels like you're just going to pump out like these, again, special edition looking books for your baseline books, and it's just going to be like how pretty this book is and whatever, versus necessarily what's inside. These two things don't necessarily have to be related, but they might be. It's just, it all feels like it's coming together in a similar way. So yeah, what are your thoughts on every book looking like a special edition book, or every book getting a special edition, or there being a billion special editions? Again, Emma talks more in depth about all the different special edition things. Even though I kept saying special edition, I'm not technically talking about special editions because they're all special editions. But it's hard to get that like connection out of your brain. So yeah, Emma's video talks a lot more about some of the special edition stuff. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the special edition book bubble, on the sprayed edge book bubble, because I think this thing is going to burst sooner rather than later. Lastly, before I go, it also feels like, you know, like the publisher, like the man, right? Like getting a hold of something and then ruining it. Like, you know, like something that happened organically. Like a lot of people were like wanting these special edition books and had these like, you know, smaller businesses that were making these special edition books, blah, 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 blah. And then publishing actually got a hold of it. And then it was like, well, now it's going to go downhill. It's like, it makes me think of, you know, when Barbenheimer happened organically, and then a lot of other, like the studios are like, we can do this again. We can release these movies like this again, and it will be just like it. And it's like, no, it won't. If you do it, it ruins it, because you're going to do it too much. And you're going to just run it in the ground. And that feels like what's happening here. Anyway, comment below. Let me know your thoughts on all the sprayed edges and all the things and how often they're coming out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you other guys soon. Bye.